I'm Ryan Keene. DIY supplies are now available at the church, and the official dates are coming up next week, the 21st through the 23rd, which is a Tuesday through Thursday. Now, if you only want to do one day, remember, we're recommending you do day 3, and that's perfectly fine to just do one day. That day has the gospel message. It's a great day if you're going to just do one. Now, you may not be able to do the 21st through the 23rd, and that's okay too, because we're going to keep the supplies available at the church and the stuff available online for 2 weeks after the 23rd. So you can really do this at your own pace and whenever is good for you. Now you may be saying, whether it's next week or 2 or 3 weeks from now, I don't know if I can lead a VBS all by myself. And you may want some tips. And that's the topic of this week's Family Fridays at Summit Church. I'm out here on location in Lisa Geisler's backyard. Now you may recognize Lisa from being one of our Summit Kids teachers on Sundays, but she's also a certified teacher. She's going to give us some tips on DIY VBS in your backyard.
So tip number 1 will be hopefully some supplies that you have around your house. But remember that the supplies for the VBS have been provided for you through church. So this first tip for motivating your children as they're working through the VBS lessons involves grabbing a puzzle that hopefully you just have at home. And you don't want to choose a puzzle that has lots and lots of pieces, because your child is going to work for the pieces when they're focusing, when they're participating, when they're answering questions. What you do is you tell them good job and you give them a piece of the puzzle. This is a giant floor puzzle and would be a great example of something that you could use for young children because there's not lots of pieces. You can make the goal simply to be able to put the puzzle together, and your child can be motivated to do that. Or if you want, once they earn all the pieces and the puzzle is together, you can decide if you would like the family to go and maybe go on a bike ride together, go to a park, something like that. That could add a little more motivation. So here's my second tip for helping your backyard VBS run smoothly. And this one, these are just some easy things from around the house. You want to get a container, and it can be any size you want. It can be really small if you have young children, or it can be larger if you have lots of kids at home. So you get a container, and then you decide what your child is going to put inside. The goal is to fill up the container. This one has marbles inside. So as your children are learning their lessons, then what you want to do is give them a marble in this case. Make sure you give it to them, because part of the fun is that nice clinky sound when it goes in. But you can choose anything. I found some pom-poms from around my house. You can also choose something that children could eat once the container is filled up. A great example for this would be marshmallows. I've seen it done with chocolate kisses, or wrapped candy like maybe Starburst. So anyway, this one is a lot of fun, keeps them on task, keeps VBS running smoothly, and it motivates them along the way. So this last tip that I have for you really is one of my favorites. I have used it in the classroom with students, and it's been a lot of fun, but it really tailors well to at-home learning, because it's going to involve the kitchen and it's going to involve some cooking with your kids, which really motivates students. So all you need is a piece of paper, something to write with, and decide what you would like to make with your children. Don't tell them what it's going to be, because it'll ruin the surprise. You just want to write out the ingredients, don't worry about the measurements, and then you're going to cut each ingredient apart. For instance, this one just says butter. You teach your lesson, and as they are working with you and they're motivated and they're participating, you say, okay, you've earned an ingredient. You give it to your child. If your child is a reader, have them read it to you. If not, you tell them, this one is butter. And the really fun part about this is because you haven't told them what you'll be making, other than it's something we're going to cook together, they start to guess. You know, okay, I've got butter and eggs. Is it pancakes? Don't tell them what it is, because that'll ruin the surprise. But the motivation increases with the ingredients. The more that they get, the more they're motivated, because they're trying to figure out what it is that you guys will be making together as a family. When they get all the ingredients, see if they can guess what it is. If they can't, in my case, we were going to be making chocolate chip cookies. So that one's a really, really fun one, and you can tailor it for the age of your children. If you have lots of children and they're older, I've done this too, and this makes it really, really hard, but older students really love it. And what you would do is cut out every single letter of the ingredient. And so as they're working, they're getting letters now, and it becomes a word scramble. And so you have to keep track. For instance, I have to know as the teacher when I've given them all the letters for butter. So I stop at that point and I say, okay, you've earned an entire ingredient. The students then have to look at the letters and unscramble them to figure out what the ingredient is. So that's an example of how you can tailor this, motivational tip to help your children learn and stay focused. And you can tailor it to be a little bit harder.
Well, those are some pretty good tips, and I'm going to give one as well. In each bag of supplies, we are going to provide the instructions, the written instructions for the VBS. And you'll find all sorts of helpful stuff for each day and about the supplies that are in the bag. Like, for example, don't eat the goldfish crackers for a snack. They're for a game. Things like that. And then just how to play each game, which again they're going to run through on the video. And the origami directions, which again they're going to run through on the video. But there's just all sorts of good stuff in here. Now, one confession that I have to make. There is one supply we're not giving you, and that's towels. There's a game where you'll get wet and need to dry off, and there's one where you'll get whipped cream on your face and you're going to want to wipe that off. And towels were just too expensive for us to provide. So we hope that you have some at your own house. One final note, if you're going to do DIY VBS, it'd be great if you could post some pictures of yourself doing it on social media, on Facebook, whether it's your own page or one of the church's Facebook pages, or on Instagram. Just use the hashtag Summit DIY VBS.